Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's time for Taroscopes again. Can you believe it? This would be the Taroscopes for January 2022. I'm going to start, and this one's going to be for the sign of Cancer. That's Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon. I'm going to start with the astrology first of January. And we have a very active astrological year, as we seem to always have. This one starts with a new moon in the sign of Capricorn. For you, Cancers, that is in your house of relationships. So you can have a new relationship come in. Now, that relationship is relationships with equals. So it could be a marriage partnership or it could be a business partnership. It's also the house of open enemies. So you may have one of those, but you'll know about it because it's the seventh house. You'll see it. If I can't imagine anybody who watches me would even have an open enemy, but I have to mention it. The new moon is at 13 degrees of Capricorn, and it is trine Uranus. In fact, the sun the day before on the first aspect, a major aspect made for 2022 is a trine between Uranus and the sun. So trines are energy that flows, and Uranus has changed. So we can definitely know that there's going to be a lot of change come 2022. And for you, Cancer, it starts in your house of relationship, right? We also have a full moon in the sign of Cancer. And that full moon, in that full moon, which is at about 27 degrees of Cancer, the sun, which is always opposite that, will again be in your seventh house of relationship, is conjunct Pluto. In fact, Pluto, the Sun-Pluto conjunction, which happens once a year, in whatever sign Pluto happens to be in, right? Because that's the slower moving planet. The sun takes a year to go through the zodiac. Pluto takes like 250 years to go through the zodiac. So we have that conjunction right before the full moon. Full moons are about illumination. And so something will be illuminated in relationship to yourself and the people that you're in relationship with that full moon. We also have Venus traveling retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. That is your house of relationship. And so you'll be rethinking your relationship. You'll be rethinking what's your responsibility and what's not your responsibility. You'll also be rethinking finances, because we are dealing with Capricorn, even though the seventh house is not necessarily a house of finance. And Venus, of course, is the planet associated with money. So that's really why the financial part of figuring out what's your responsibility and what's not your responsibility will come up this month. We do have the sun make a conjunction to Venus. With Venus retrograde, that means Venus is as close as she's going to be to planet Earth. And of course, because we're dealing with the retrograde motion, and Venus is not in the sky when it's conjunct the sun, it's under the rays of the sun, so you can't see it. There is this sense of Venus being in the underworld. And so that, along with, of course, the retrogression of Venus, it's really a very deep feeling time and a real reevaluation of what's important to you in your relationships, and just generally what's important to you, because that's really what Venus is. Venus, to a certain extent, is our essential needs, not completely, but certainly in part. All right, let's see what else is happening. The sun, of course, is in Capricorn until the 19th, when it moves into Aquarius. That is your seventh house. So partnerships are all up. It's all up in you. So it becomes a real focus. And that's a normal time for you to have partnership focus anyway in January, because the sun's in Capricorn and it's your house of partnership. But with Pluto there and Venus retrograde there and conjuncting the sun, and then Pluto conjuncting the sun, and then eventually Pluto conjuncting Mercury in Capricorn, there is quite a bit of energy in that seventh house for you. So you will really be reevaluating things. coming to terms with things and starting new cycles within that 7th house. We also have Mercury retrograde that happens on the 14th. It's happening in Aquarius at your house of shared resources. So there can be some miscommunication. Make sure you do your taxes, maybe double check them, triple check them, or have your accountant check them, because there can be mistakes with the Mercury retrograde. Just you need to be extra careful with that. It does go direct at the beginning of February, I believe February 3rd, it goes direct. So we will be out of that Mercury retrograde. We'll be in the Mercury retrograde for most of the month. And when we're not in Mercury retrograde, we're in the pre-shadow. So while things aren't completely backwards with Mercury and communication and such, it still can be a little bit of a struggle. Pinning down a time, pinning down a date, and making sure everything aligns. Venus, I said, is retrograde. It's retrograde. It went retrograde on the 19th of December, and it's retrograde until the 29th of January. So we get 2 days in January where Venus is in retrograde, but it's pretty much standing still, because when a planet changes direction and stations, it sort of it's very powerful actually, but it sort of just sits there, right? And then it starts to move forward. So we have that. So let me see if there's anything else I want to mention. Mars, the planet of action, is in your house of health right now, as it starts the month. And then on the 24th, it moves into that 7th house. Again, more energy in that 7th house. And Mars can be somewhat of an irritating influence, but it definitely gets things moving. So things will really start to move towards the end of the month in that house of relationship. But in the meantime, before that, make sure that you take care of your health. Don't overexert yourself, overstress yourself, or go overboard with things. You do have Sagittarius ruling that house, so you can have a tendency to overdo, especially for other people when you're nurturing them. So be aware of that. All right, I think that's all I want to say about the astrology. Now we're going to do card reading, and I'm going to be using the Illuminated Earth Oracle for this. This is a deck that was developed by a artist in the Seattle area, and the colors are very much Seattle, very Pacific Northwest. The woman who, the artist who created these, name is Claire Mack, and her address is there an address here? No, it just says, I think it's clairemack.com. They're beautiful cards though. Some of my favorite. Okay, let's take a look and see what's going on. What's going on for Cancer? I'm interested because I'm a Cancer. Oh no, something fell. Oh, a whole bunch of stuff fell. Hold on one second. I'm gonna have to go under the table here. So give me a second. Okay, I'm back. It was a big thing getting under the table. Grunting and groaning and stuff. You didn't have to hear that. I don't grunt or groan. Only when I get out of a chair a little bit. Let's see. What do we got here? What do we got? What's happening for Cancer in the month of January 2021? You can utilize this reading for the year if you like. It seems that January readings don't just give us a view of January, but they do also give us a view of the year. You can take it or leave it. And again, these readings are reading the energy of the moment, and that can change, and we have free will, so you can do what you will. Nothing is in stone, nothing is fated, really. Well, some things are fated, but I'm not gonna be the one who tells you what those things are. Those things you'll know within yourself. Those moments where you're like, well, that just had to happen. Okay, let's see. So we are here looking at the structure of things. That's the card that comes up first, structure. And it's kind of interesting that this card comes up because Venus Venus is what we value and what's important to us. In Capricorn, it is about structure. It's the structures that sustain us. It's the structures that are tested by time. But we have to remember that Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008. And so the structures that we've come to depend on are changing and shifting, and not exactly perhaps what we thought they were. They are being tested. And the ones that, for the most part, the ones that still hold purpose and still hold, um, really still hold purpose for you will remain, but they will change. The structures will change. And so we here having this card of structure here, it's really about sort of evaluating that, evaluating how you structure your life. Let's see what's challenging that. Erosion. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. They will change. The structure, those things that you thought would be there forever will fall away in January. But it's a process, and it's a slow process, and it's not a sudden thing that you're experiencing, but a slow sort of erosion of the structures. But as that occurs, what is revealed are the different layers, and there's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in that erosion of what was once strong, in a way. So it is a challenge, but it's one that's sort of this inevitable change. And Cancers, for the most part, we don't like too much change. We're ruled by the moon, so our feelings are always changing, and that's really enough change for Cancer. Really, we don't need any other kind of big change. But the world's changing around us, and so we need to really come to terms with that, right? We need to really come to terms with that. It's interesting because you could utilize this reading for the U.S. because the U.S. is a Cancer country. So underneath it all, the underworld. So this snake going in the underworld, this is the DNA, the Kundalini, but it really is, these three cards together are really bringing forth that energy of Venus retrograde in Capricorn, Venus in the hell realms, Venus facing really, these myths of the feminine, going into the underworld and coming back up, are myths of the feminine energy finding its power, and finding its queendom to a certain extent. And so while going down and going to the depths of things and getting to the root cause and getting to the bottom line can be a painful experience, it can be a little bit scary. It's like, who am I really? What's at the core of me? It is necessary. And ultimately, if you're looking for diamonds, you have to dig. If you're looking for gold, you have to dig. So while it's an arduous, a messy process, you usually come up with some pretty good gems, as it were, on the way back up. Let's see what's in the past. Patience. So you've been patient. I'm a Cancer, and I'm pretty patient, mostly. Certain things I'm impatient about, but I understand that things take time. And so you've had to foster a lot of patience in this, in these intervening years. Even though you didn't like what you were seeing, you had to have the patience to sort of step back and wait for things to, turn around, so to speak. Let's look in the sky. All right, we have support. So this is Spirit telling you that you're not alone, that you are supported. You are supported by those who love you. You are supported by those who love you who are no longer with you. You are supported by your angels and your guides and Jesus and Mary and whoever else you pray to. They're all there to support you. You are not alone, Cancer. You are not alone. Let's see what's in the immediate future. Oh, lovely. So harmony. So a really nice card. Yay. I'm a Cancer, remember. I'm happy to see this card. So we have harmony, and so there's a certain some of the other readings for the other signs were quite challenging. Not that this is challenging in its own way. We are going into the underworld, but coming out and experiencing the harmony, and perhaps a realization that things happen in the way that they happen, in the not just in the way, but in the process and in the way things happen in order, that has a higher purpose. And we can see the rainbow here. So this is also can be, the rainbow bridge. So connecting to your higher self, Okay. I was seen from the outside, memory, cancers are always thinking about the past. And, it can be a little rosier than it was. Uh, it can seem like the old days were better than the new days, but we tend to forget the hard stuff. So, um, and perhaps the memory in this position are people remembering who you were, not who you are now and who you're becoming. Let's see what's in the domestic situation. We have Cosmos. So this is sort of bringing your spirituality home, bringing your connections, understanding that all things are connected, and bringing that into your home, into your domestic situation. It's actually a lovely card. It's a lovely card. So far, things look good for Cancer. Hopes and fears, transient. If anybody understands the transient nature of things, it's a Cancer, because we're ruled by the moon. And the moon, as it is in this card, is always changing and always shifting. So there's a cyclical aspect that we come to understand. And so if things are good, sometimes we're a little anxious that we know that at some point things are not going to be good. But on the other side of that, when things aren't so good, we know that on the other side of that, something is good. So something good is coming. So it depends on where you're at. If things are good, you're hoping for things better. If things are good, you're hoping that they stay good. If things are bad, you're hoping that they get good. But there's some of us who, if things are good, we're a little suspicious. Okay, outcome, we have combustion. This is this depends on so we have fire, we have combustion here. This depends on, is this anger, or is this like a spiritual kind of transfiguration, burning away the dross? What is this? It's some sort of spiritual initiation, burning us up, burning away that which no longer serves. Let's see what's underneath it here. Here we go. We have eruption, which is usually some long-standing issues that have finally made their way to the surface. One of the things with cancers and with water signs in general is it often takes a really long time for things to build up. And with water signs, you sort of need a container in order for things to build up. Otherwise, there's always this flow, right? And nothing comes to a head. You kind of need a container for water signs. And it looks like we have something's going to blow, but it's something deep and it's something old, and its time has come to come up. Then we have the stillness. So there's the explosion and then the quietude. And then we have influence. And influence is really the question of allowing yourself to be influenced by things outside of yourself. The question of that, like even this old energy that's coming up from the bowels of the earth, as it were, and creates this combustion. The spewing of that, the letting go of that, and then the consequent, the next step of stillness will help you to realize what's driving your bus, what's driving you, And I think it has a lot to do with how you structure your life. If fear is driving you, you tend to structure your life to try to mitigate like terrible things happening. But as we know, terrible things happen all the time, or what we would perceive as terrible things happen, no matter how much you try to hedge your bets, as it were. So it's time for this stuff to come up. Remember, Pluto in Capricorn is really the volcano, and then add Uranus in Taurus, you know, two of the transpersonal planets that create change, one sudden and one slow in the earth signs, is really going to change our values and change the structure of things. And that's really what you're looking at. So for the most part, I think there's a lot of good stuff coming for you, Cancer, but there's also a lot of things that have been percolating. And once you get down deep into that underworld, I think you're going to find some things that need to be released. And once they're released, you will be released. So that's what I see for you, Cancer. I hope you enjoyed that reading. Like and subscribe. I'll see you again next month for the Taroscopes for February. If you would like a reading with me, there's a link below for that. If you would like to donate to my channel, it's always welcome. Thank you for your attention, and I will see you again next month. Much love. Namaste.